The 17th edition of BRICS Summit happened from 6th to 7th of July 2025 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Now, this was the 17th edition of this integral important global forum. Bringing major economies of the world, major emerging economies in the world, and discussing on issues related to climate change, security, peace and stability, economy, trade, artificial intelligence, governance, and sustainable finance. Now, this year, the central theme of the summit was strengthening global South cooperation for more inclusive and sustainable governance. Now, under this particular theme, major emerging economies of the world met and discussed on issues which are broad-ranged from climate change to trade to artificial intelligence. Now, BRICS as a forum holds a very integral place, especially after the last year's inclusion of different other countries in the BRICS forum. BRICS has become a major competitor to NATO in a very great extent. Now, recently there was a SCO Defense Minister Summit as well. And for India, it did not go really well because India refused to sign the joint statement of the SCO Defense Ministers Summit. But this BRICS Summit went really well for India and an opportunity for India to meet the global leaders and discuss on issues which matter to our country and the global geopolitics as well. And especially while India is being the voice of the global South, now this particular event hosted by Brazil played a very important role in positioning India as a function in the Middle East region and in the different areas of the world in the contemporary geopolitics. Now, what is this BRICS forum? Why BRICS forum is so important for India and for the world, and what is the future of this BRICS forum and what transpired in this particular BRICS Summit of 2025? All the things we'll be trying to understand in this particular session. Hello, my name is Preetpal Singh and you're watching Perspective. Now, let's start historically. That is, what do you mean by the term BRICS? See, the BRICS is a short form for 5 countries, namely Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, if you have to trace historically, in the year 2001, British economist Jim O'Neill coined the term BRIC, standing for the initials of 4 emerging economies in the world, namely Brazil, Russia, India, and China. So it was a Goldman Sachs report which first talked about such a coalition or such a grouping being formed. Now, the leaders of the BRIC countries, that is Brazil, Russia, India, and China, they met for the first time in St. Petersburg, Russia in July of 2006. And in September of 2006, the group was founded as known as BRIC. And the first formal meeting was held in the year 2009 in Russia itself. In the year 2011, South Africa joined this BRIC forum, and eventually it came to be known as BRICS. And BRICS has evolved under massive expansion in the year 2024-2025 by incorporating different other nations like Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and UAE as full members. So in totality, there are 11 members of BRICS forum in the world right now. And from an initial forum of just consultation and prospective emerging economies, BRICS have turned into a very powerful mechanism which supports multilateral diplomacy, can write the geopolitics of the world, can lead to economic growth and regional development of the countries. And it also engages in different other arenas like BRICS Business Council, Women's Business Alliance, P2P exchanges, also adding multi-dimensional aspect to its agenda. Now, for the world also, it is very important and integral because right now the BRICS forum, it represents approximately 49.5% of the world's population, also 40% of the global GDP and 26% of the global trade as well, which makes it massively important as an international forum for the entire world. And of course, as a challenger to NATO, it is seen in not very good lights by the likes of US and UK. Now let's talk about the BRICS Summit of 2025. Now, it was very important in a way that the issues which are going on in the world right now, in the backdrop of these issues, this BRICS Summit is taking place. The first very prominent issue recently which is going on is Israel-Iran war and US involvement in that war and eventual ceasefire. And also recently, India and Pakistan's conflict as well. And before that, the Pahalgam attack perpetrated by Pakistan on our territory. That is also one issue on the backdrop of which this BRICS Summit is being taking place. Other than that, the Russia-Ukraine war, which have been ongoing since the last many years, and the recently announced Trump tariff, on the sidelines of that also BRICS Summit is taking place. Because see, the agenda of BRICS Summit is also involving trade as a very integral part of it, which is why this Trump tariff inclusion is very important. Now in this respect, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji went to the BRICS Summit and participated and gave a very historic speech. So he addressed two key sessions. One was on a reform of global governance and peace and security. Another was to strengthen multilateralism, economic financial affairs and artificial intelligence. And there are different points under different headings which our Prime Minister highlighted in the BRICS Summit of 2025. So first was in response to the global institutions which are currently redundant. So our Prime Minister reiterated urgent reforms to United Nations Security Council, urgent reforms to United Nations, reforms to International Monetary Fund, the functioning of World Bank and the World Trade Organization. So because these institutions are very integral and important for the world, but they have become outdated and they no longer reflect the contemporary realities and the contemporary geopolitical shift in the world, which is why these 20th century institutions are ill-equipped to handle 21st century problems, which is why our Prime Minister highlighted updation of these institutions and reforms in these institutions. Other than that, in relation to peace, security and counter-terrorism, our Prime Minister specifically highlighted the 2025 Pahalgam terror attack in the region of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, he called for terrorism as a grave threat to humanity and an urgent zero tolerance to terrorism in any form or matter. And he also criticized the double standard of several countries in relation to tackling terrorism and demanded a strong global action plan against the state-sponsored terrorism in the world and also those who are providing safe havens to the terrorists and the nations that fund or promote terrorism. Strict and strong global action against them is required. That is what our Prime Minister reiterated. Other than that, his speech also focused on Middle East stability and the Gaza crisis, the issue going on in Gaza. So he has always, our country's formal position has always been that we support peaceful dispute resolution and to this Israel-Palestine conflict and also the humanitarian crisis which is going on in Gaza, we condemn that. Also, we have welcomed Iran's inclusion in BRICS, which is diplomatically a very good feat or very important feat for India because Iran right now is not in the good books of Israel and US. But India is having good relation with US and Israel both. Now, in relation to the economic resilience and multilateralism as well, our Prime Minister highlighted urgent need and stressed on the importance of local currency trade and mechanisms to reduce dollar dependence. So de-dollarization, which is a goal for our country, not just for our country, for BRICS as a whole, that dollar as a dominant global reserve should no longer be there and there should be alternatives to dollar which should be present. But how can those alternatives come? If we trade in our local currencies, which India has been doing with its neighbors and with Russia as well. And we've also suggested certain reforms to the New Development Bank, which is a bank under the BRICS, for including demand-driven financing and long-term sustainability of the finance as well. That is in relation to finance part and the trade part. Now, in relation to artificial intelligence part also and technology cooperation, our Prime Minister specifically highlighted sharing the technology with the Global South. Because as we are the voice of the Global South, if Global South has not shared the artificial intelligence technology, they might be left far behind in the AI race in the world. And also he highlighted that we need to secure critical minerals, critical resources like lithium and cobalt in the countries in order to ensure critical minerals are used in defense technologies, in other major technologies, development of technological instruments in the countries. And after the summit in conclusion, BRICS countries, which are 11 in number, they also adopted Rio de Janeiro Declaration. Now, what this Rio de Janeiro Declaration included of 2025? Firstly, it strongly condemned terrorism, especially the Pahalgam attack. Now, this point is very important for us to understand because we wanted to include Pahalgam attack in the SCO Declaration joint statement as well. When recently Shanghai Cooperation Organization's defense ministers meeting happened, we wanted to include terrorism and Pahalgam attack, specifically a reference to Pahalgam attack in that joint declaration. But of course, one country, that is Pakistan, opposed its inclusion. And because SCO decisions are taken by consensus, we could not include it. But in BRICS, in Rio de Janeiro Declaration, we have explicitly included reference to Pahalgam terror attack. And we have strongly condemned terrorism. That is the first part of Rio de Janeiro Declaration. Second is a call for UNSC reforms. That means the P5 members, they need to be improved, they need to be increased, and the hegemony of the P5 members needs to be done away with. So a reform in United Nations Security Council is to be there. That is the second demand, or that is the second part of the declaration. Other part is a push for responsible AI governance, along with a commitment to climate justice and climate sustainability, which would go a long way in protecting the livelihoods of the people, and also overall to support peaceful resolution of conflicts, whether it be in any part of the country, any part of the world, whether it be in Gaza, whether it be in Ukraine or other regions where conflicts are currently going on. Now, if we look at it holistically, it was a very good summit with respect to India and overall as well. Of course, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin could not attend this BRICS summit due to different reasons, but for our Prime Minister, for our country, this summit remained a very, very positive step in our diplomatic outreach. See, while this BRICS summit was going on, US President Donald Trump has threatened the BRICS countries that if any discussion or any step they take for de-dollarization or against the dominance of dollar or against the interest of US, those countries would be retaliated through a imposition of 10% extra tariff on those countries. That is one threat which Donald Trump has given. And to some countries, Donald Trump has explicitly imposed additional tariffs as well. But here what we can see is that US feels that BRICS is developing and emerging as an alternative to NATO. Because see, NATO in itself is a very different kind of organization. It's more of a security-related organization. But BRICS is a multilateral forum, which includes multi-dimensional issues in different spheres. And because in the last 2 years, we have expanded BRICS to 11 members, and more than 40-50 nations in the world have directly or indirectly, formally, informally expressed their concern or have expressed their willingness to join BRICS as an international forum, which is why we can see BRICS as a multilateral institution where India is a founding member could grow in such a huge forum, could grow in such a huge intergovernmental forum where its dominance would be at par as NATO. So whether it be to promote the issues of multilateralism or whether it be to promote the voice of the global south and to promote free and fair trade practices and to ensure that all the countries in the BRIC, they get adequate financing and they counter terrorism and they promote stability and security in the region, BRICS plays a very, very pivotal role. See, we as a country need to participate very regularly in forums like BRICS. Because if India is eyeing to become a developed country by the year 2047 and is eyeing to become a global superpower as well, forums like BRICS, forums like SCO will play a pivotal role for India to show its leadership in the global matters and the global issues. And also to showcase its stance, where we always call for peaceful actions. BRICS as a multilateral forum would go a very, very long way. I hope you gained a new perspective from this session. Do let me know what are your views surrounding this BRICS Summit of 2025. I'll be very happy to read them. All the very best and have a beautiful day. Thank you.